And welcome back to Public Report. Our guest today is the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Wisconsin, Rebecca Kleefisch. Our issue is civic affairs, and our topic is the state deficit. Can you give your view of the events that have unfolded in the state capitol within the last few weeks?
Well, it's been interesting, hasn't it? We have had plenty of protesters at the Capitol. That's no big secret. But what it's been about is a fundamental difference of opinion over our budget repair bill. It was introduced several weeks ago, and the events kind of unfolded after the budget repair bill was introduced. The budget repair bill is simply meant to shore up our problems in fiscal year 11. We have a $137 million hole that we need to fix that was left to us by the previous administration. We have a lot of cost pressures right now. We owe the state of Minnesota $60 million for a tax reciprocity agreement. We owe our Patients Compensation Fund $200 million because of an illegal raid under the last administration. There were overruns in Medicaid, overruns in corrections, and we need to address those by shoring up our budget situation now. Governor Walker proposed some modest increases in government employees' contributions to a couple fundamental programs. First of all, a 5.8% contribution to pension. Now, if you were in the private sector and you approached your employer and said, I'd like you to pay both your portion and my portion of my 401k, what do you think about that? Well, the employer would probably laugh. That just doesn't happen in the private sector, but yet through collective bargaining at the state level, that's exactly what's been happening. So what we're asking, and what Governor Walker and I had already agreed to do during the campaign, is contribute a modest portion, about the national average, to the pension, 5.8%. In addition to that, we're asking for a 12.6% contribution to health care, and that's about half the national average. And right now we know federal employees contribute about 25%, in fact. And so the health care piece of the puzzle is important because that's one of our biggest cost drivers right now. Health care is getting tremendously expensive. In fact, since 2002, we've actually seen a 90% increase in the cost of our health care. So we've asked for a 5.8% pension contribution, 12.6% healthcare contribution, and we have reduced collective bargaining to just wages. And the wages will be tied to the consumer price index. And if a municipality, a county, a school district wants to go above the CPI, then it would need to be okayed by taxpayers, because we know that of the 5.5 million people in the state of Wisconsin, most taxpayers can't afford any more tax increases. They want government services, certainly, but at the end of the day, they can't afford more penalizing taxes in the state of Wisconsin. We were elected to balance the budget without raising taxes. That's exactly what the biennial budget does, and the budget repair bill provides the tools with which counties, cities, municipalities, school districts can use in order to offset the cuts to state aid that are coming.
Do you believe this will have nationwide reverberations, and has it already?
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you the number of nationwide inquiries we've gotten on our phone lines and emails from Tennessee and California, Arizona, New Mexico, supporting Governor Walker and saying this needs to happen. Right now, states nationwide are facing huge budget deficits, and some states have chosen to address them differently. Our neighbors to the south, for example, Illinois, decided that they were going to kick the can down the road to the next generation, or perhaps even generations after that. They took out an $8.75 billion loan in order to fix this. They raised taxes. They jacked up their corporate income tax rate by 46%, their personal income tax rate by 67%. We're saying we understand that hardworking Wisconsin families just can't afford that type of option. In addition to that, we want to open Wisconsin for business again. That means we're welcoming the private sector to come and grow in the state of Wisconsin, because we know that it's not going to be by austerity alone that we're going to balance this budget in the future. We've got to grow our way out of this recession as well.
What will happen if the state continues to operate with the current deficit it has?
Well, it can't. First of all, we have to pass a balanced budget by law. And if you're asking about the fiscal year 11, the budget repair bill, that $137 million, time is ticking. Right now, we have reduced the amount of time that we have to sell bonds on refinancing our debt from 3 weeks to 2 weeks. That's almost unheard of. And so we need our missing Democrat senators to return to the state of Wisconsin so that we can debate this on the Senate floor and so that the budget repair bill can finally be passed, because these are all pieces to the puzzle of balancing the budget. And if we don't do this, we are looking at potential massive layoffs. We are looking at the end of the funding of Medicaid. There's going to be a time at which the dollars just run out, and we're going to have to send IOUs to people. Well, I don't know about you, but I couldn't afford to live on IOUs from the state, and in a lot of cases, nursing homes especially, they can't afford it either. These are scary times if this budget repair bill does not pass.
Do you believe lawmakers need to be very serious about dealing with the state's deficit? Will cuts be inevitable, and will almost everyone be affected?
Yes, cuts are inevitable. We're broke. We just don't have any money. I mean, when you're facing a $3.6 billion budget deficit, there are going to have to be cuts. But in addition to that, Governor Walker's budget actually reduces spending by $4.2 billion. That's a 6.7% reduction from the last biennial budget. I'm tremendously proud of how he has made these conservative decisions with a compassionate heart, stuck to his morals and virtues, and understands how we need to move forward, but we can only move forward if we're going to do it with moderation and frugality.
Do you believe we can see the day when the state will be operating without a deficit? And is it going to be a challenging road to get there?
We're getting close. We're getting close, because I'll tell you what, in this budget, and this is just one of the reasons that I think Wisconsin can be really proud of Governor Walker. In the past, we've always had very, very large structural deficits. In fact, the last one was $2.5 billion. Governor Walker's structural deficit, $250 million. That's an incredible difference. I mean, when you look at the chart, Democrats and Republicans alike, I mean, you'll see all the numbers just about here. When it comes to Governor Walker's year, it's down here. That is the lowest structural deficit in recorded history of structural deficits. I think that that is something that truly shows the vector on which we are traveling, and it truly shows how Governor Walker is aiming to make sure that we aren't using one-time tricks and one-time fixes. We aren't kicking the can down the road to future generations, Wisconsin's sons and daughters. And finally, that we're truly going to balance the budget without raising taxes and without fee increases.
What do you feel is the largest misconception about the budget repair bill?
I think the largest misconception about the budget repair bill is that the collective bargaining piece is going to somehow break up union solidarity in the way in which it was founded. Collective bargaining is a fiscal piece of our puzzle. We need collective bargaining on only wages because it is part of the facts that we're dealing with. You don't get together and collectively bargain in order to ask for less. You get together and collectively bargain in order to ask for increases and in order to ask for more. And right now we don't have more to give. And so what we need is the collective bargaining piece of this puzzle in order to make it work. And we've seen it. We have hard numbers in the state of Wisconsin. You know, through collective bargaining, a lot of teachers in the state are forced onto the WEA Trust health plan. So instead of going on the state health care plan, they're forced onto this teachers union plan. And the state plan would actually save about $68 million. That's $68 million that could go directly into books and desks and hiring new teachers. That's true cost savings. In addition to that, Milwaukee Public Schools actually used a provision through collective bargaining to sue to get Viagra covered to the tune of about $800,000. Now that's not going to enhance performance inside the classroom. In addition to that, did you know that corrections officers in the state of Wisconsin can call in sick on a shift, but through collective bargaining, if they show up for a shift later on in that same day, they can actually get overtime for it? You can't argue that these things are not true cost drivers. They have dollars and cents attached to them. We need that collective bargaining piece. And for the folks who are concerned about work environment, we have the strongest civil service system in the nation here in Wisconsin. And so there will be merit hiring, and there will always be an opportunity to grieve, and there will be just cause for discipline and dismissal. Those things are all still protected. You never needed a union or collective bargaining in order to protect those things. The civil service system in Wisconsin was in place in 1905. That's well before we ever even heard of collective bargaining.
For the average Wisconsinite who maybe is a little fearful or apprehensive of the budget repair bill, what words would you offer to reassure them?
What I would say is, because our budget is what it is right now, because we're broke, we don't have any money, let's compare this to the average family. If you're broke and you don't have enough money to go on a Disney World vacation, you just don't do it. I mean, you start cutting coupons, and you start, calling your creditors and arranging lower interest rates. You do everything you can in order to make your budget work so that your family survives through this deep economic recession. That's what we're doing, except our family is 5.5 million people. And so there's no reason to be afraid of the budget repair bill. It protects workers' rights and asks for government workers to come in line with the private sector worker. The private sector worker who is paying for the government worker and the government programs, because we need to take government down to its core functions, and we need to make sure that we're still providing good core services in government, but we also need to be slimmer, more nimble, and we need to make sure that we have the tools in place into the future so that we're not kicking the can down the road to our kids.
And how would you say our state how have we gotten to this point, and do you see there being a domino effect with other states? Are we seeing this in other states in the country?
Oh, absolutely. Our state got to this point the same way all the other states got to this point. I mean, nationwide, the states are billions of dollars in debt, and this is a problem that we're seeing all across the nation. This is not just Wisconsin, but Wisconsin has received a lot of national attention because Governor Walker has been courageous and bold about taking these steps to solve our budget problems, because this truly is a budget problem at the end of the day. This is not, what some of the other people are calling it. This is budget balancing. And these are simple fiscal facts at this point. And as far as other states following suit, I think they will. We saw Mitch Daniels 6 years ago in Indiana eliminate collective bargaining, and he did it through executive order. We're allowing the democratic process to take place, and we urge again our Democratic senators to return so they can participate in that process. But right now, even the protesters have been largely peaceful, and the Capitol has been transformed. It's truly the seat of our democracy, but over the last 2 weeks, we have seen a lot of people speaking out, but we can't let those voices speak louder than the voices who elected Governor Walker and myself to make tough decisions like Governor Walker has made. And I respect him tremendously for being able to take these bold, courageous steps, because it is bold politically. But when it comes to balancing a budget, just like you would balance your family's budget, it's not bold really at all when it comes to the dollars and cents, because you're just doing what you need to do in order to get by. And this is an innovative, a creative way in order to do it, so that we address our cost drivers not just for now, but in the future.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for being our guest on the show today.
My pleasure.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch. Our issue has been civic affairs, and our topic has been the state deficit. Thank you for viewing Public Report.
The material on this program does not necessarily reflect the views of WWRS.